Alright guys, let's try to do this time exactly the opposite of what we did with the Madness Vampires. This time we're just going to grief people by, instead of playing creatures and killing them on turn 4, we're going to kill all their creatures and kill them on turn 40. So, starting with Blessed Alliance. So I'm playing this deck in 2 colors, just black and white. A lot of the other control decks do splash a 3rd color. I don't think the mana is good enough, and I think we have enough solid options. But this card is an instant speed for 2 mana. Choose one or more. Target player gains 4 life. Untap up to 2 target creatures, and target opponent sacrifices an attacking creature. So we're pretty much never going to use the middle mode, the untap 2 target creatures, because we don't have any creatures in this deck. We can generate them through Gideon or Oath of Liliana, but you know, usually we won't have creatures on the battlefield. So it's the other 2 modes that we're concerned about, and with this spell you can escalate it. So for 4 mana we can gain 4 life and make the opponent sacrifice an attacking creature. So that 4 life is actually pretty huge, because one of the big knocks on black-white control was the fact that a lot of its spells, you know, its good card draw spells, removal spells, require you to take some life loss, and now with Blessed Alliance we can recoup that. You know, Anguished Unmaking and Read the Bones. So let's move on. Grasp of Darkness, black, instant. Target creature gets -4/-4 until end of turns, premium removal. And we get to play 3 copies. We're absolutely going to play those. Declaration of Stone, don't think I really need to talk about this card and what it can do. It can wipe out token armies without giving your opponent a single clue. It can exile Ulamog for just 2 mana. Just deals with anything. And we can only play 2 of those because it's rare. And then also we have 2 copies of Oath of Liliana. It's a legendary enchantment. We can only have 1 in play, but we don't mind sacrificing the first one because the ability is not too relevant. We only have 3 Planeswalkers in the deck, so it's a 3 mana Edict. The enchantment stays in play, obviously, and if we Planeswalker entered the battlefield, we get a 2/2 zombie. So it's protection for our Planeswalkers if we cast them. And like I say, we don't mind, since it's legendary, we can't have 2 in play, but we don't mind casting the second one if we need the Edict, because we'll still get to keep 1 in play and get the 2/2 zombie effect. 3 copies of Murder, again premium removal, just destroy target creature, 3 mana instant speed. Going to play all 3 available copies of those. Anguished Unmaking, 3 mana instant speed, exit target non-land permanent. Oh, that's pretty powerful. Enchantments, Planeswalkers, whatever. You want it gone, it's gone. You have to pay 3 life. Small price to pay, and like I say, we have Blessed Alliance to recoup some life. We also have Shambling Vent. You get a few hits with Shambling Vent every now and then when your opponent taps out, and safe to gain a little bit of life as well. Playing 1 copy of Angelic Purge. So you have to sacrifice a permanent to cast it. This deck can generate permanents in a few different ways. I mean, you can sacrifice a land if you absolutely have to, if it's necessary. And once you do that, you can exile target artifact, creature, or enchantment. So it's just a one-of in here for some artifact and enchantment hate. The fact that it can hit a creature means that it'll never be dead. It'll never be a dead draw. So we can sacrifice an Oath of Liliana to it. We can sacrifice one of the created zombies off an Oath of Liliana to it. We've got 1 copy of Tamio's Journal that can spit out clues. We can sacrifice those clues to it. And like I said, we can sacrifice a land. We can sacrifice a token from Gideon. There's a few ways to go about it. And then we get to our premier draw spell, Read the Bones, 3 mana, scry 2, then draw 2 cards, you lose 2 life. So again, like this is a great, absolutely fantastic spell to be able to see what the top 2 cards are before deciding which ones, if any, you want to keep. You know, so if there's a particular card you need, say it's a sweeper, or a particular removal spell for a difficult to remove threat, so you need a Declaration in Stone for an opposing Ulamog or something. You might need an Anguished Unmaking because there's a Planeswalker about to ultimate. You know, this'll, if it's not in your top 2, then you get to see the next 2. So you get to go 4 cards deep and try to find it. It's really good. And like I say, we have Blessed Alliance for a little bit of life gain to try and overcome the drawback. So Lily, the Last Hope, she's a 3 mana Planeswalker. If you get her out turn 3 on the play, doesn't matter what deck, she protects herself with the +1, and she just she keeps ticking up. She can kill stuff with the 1 on the butt. And that emblem will just snowball out of control and eventually win you the game. It's a threat your opponent's going to have to deal with, and so that's why we're playing it. 3 copies of Suppression Bonds, 4 mana enchantment. It enchants a non-land permanent. It can't attack or block, and its activated abilities can't be activated. So this is mainly Planeswalker hate. We already have Anguished Unmaking, but that's only 2 copies. So you can hang Suppression Bonds on a Planeswalker, and that gives us 5 answers to Planeswalkers. I don't think there's a deck out there now that doesn't run at least 2 or 3 Planeswalkers. They're everywhere, and if you can lock them down, a lot of times you can just beat your opponent because they were relying on that. So that's why we're going to play 3 of those. And again, if you're not in the type of matchup where that's a card that you need and it shows up off Read the Bones, you just throw it to the bottom. We also have Gaia Reach Sanitarium in our mana base, so if it's sitting in your hand doing nothing, you can just chuck it and go deeper. So, I mean, it's a great card, though. From what I've played about 10 games online, and it's been a good card to draw. Languish goes without saying. It's a really good sweeper. All creatures get -4/-4. Gideon, one of our win conditions. You know, he attacks as a 5/5. He poops out tokens. So he's just a threat that the opponent has to deal with. So Tamiyo's Journeying, 5 mana, do nothing artifact. It's legendary, so you can't have more than one in play, so we're not going to bother playing more than one. Artifact removal is extremely rare. If you get this thing in play, it's pretty much going to stay there. I actually had one of those games online I was talking about. I had this out, and I had 2 clues on the battlefield, and my opponent managed to cast Talent of the Telepath and found a Tragic Arrogance, thinking he was going to manage to get rid of my Tamiyo's Journal, but I just cracked the 2 clues in response, and then he couldn't make me sacrifice my journal. Stopped me from, you know, tutoring up what I wanted next turn, but a small price to pay to keep the journal. But this thing, it pumps out a clue every single turn, so, I mean, at this stage of the game where you have 5, 6, 7, 8 mana, usually you are going to have 2 left over per turn, and you're just going to get to sink that into card draw. So it's a really good card. 2 copies of Planar Outburst, just like Languish. I mean, we want to have 4 sweepers, so this is our 4th sweeper. We should usually have one ready to go by the time we need one. And later in the game, this is an emergency 4/4. If you need to kill an opposing Planeswalker for 9 mana, you can awaken this for 8, and you know, awaken the 9th land and swing at a Planeswalker. Maybe you can just swing at them. Who knows? Very rare that it'll come up, but it does come up. 1 copy of Tragic Arrogance. For each player, you choose from among the permanents that player controls an artifact, creature, enchantment, and Planeswalker, and then everything else gets sacrificed. So they'll end up, if they have one of each, they'll stay with one of each. If they have multiple copies of anything, you'll get to pick whichever one it is that you want for them to keep. So that goes really good with Suppression Bonds, because the only other enchantment we're playing is Oath of Liliana, and we really don't care if that stays on the battlefield or not. It's all about the Edict effect. So if they have a big Planeswalker with the Suppression Bonds on it, let's say they have 3 Planeswalkers. Let's just go into Christmas Land here. Let's say they have 3 Planeswalkers, and you have one of them with the Suppression Bonds on it. When you cast Tragic Arrogance, you tell them, you know, which Planeswalker you want them to keep. You keep the one that's locked down with the Suppression Bonds, and then when it comes to your side, you know, you have to choose which enchantment you want to keep. You just keep the bonds. So it's some good synergy there. Or if they have a big creature that's locked down with Suppression Bonds, you can, you know, again, keep the bonds, let them keep that big creature, and then wipe every other creature, so they effectively don't have any left. I was just, you know, another win condition. He draws his cards. We can afford a little bit of life loss, and he can remove a creature in a pinch. Sorin, another card draw engine, and it also burns out the opponent. Also, we can kill creatures or Planeswalkers and gain a bit of life if it comes to that. I don't think we'll ever use the ultimate, ever, for any reason. So, yeah. It's there, though. He's got a 3rd ability. It's cool. And Ulamog. I mean, it's the only creature in the deck. And when you cast it, you get to exile 2 things. I mean, that's just too good. You know, we're going to be playing the long game. You know, we're going to get to 10 plus mana every single game. If you draw this in your opening hand and it's really just getting in your way and it looks like you don't need it, you can just pitch it to Gaia Reach Sanitarium if you happen to have one of those in play. Otherwise, you know, I still think it's good enough. Declaration of Stone is everywhere, and if this is your only creature, they'll probably have it by the time you get them into play. I've seen my opponents, you know, I'll have 2 Gideon tokens. They'll spend Declaration of Stone because they don't figure that I actually have a creature, which I don't, and I've managed to get Ulamog in play. But usually you're just wanting to exile 2 things with this. You know, maybe you want to get some key lands out of the way. You know, maybe there's just a nasty creature that they keep recurring from the graveyard. This will exile it. You know, Planeswalkers. I had a game where there was 2 Planeswalkers with Suppression Bonds on them, and I exiled them anyway because earlier in the game he had removed one of my enchantments on another Planeswalker. He was playing Super Friends, though. I think he had like 5 Planeswalkers that game, and I managed to beat him because I kept locking them down with the bonds and then exiling them. I think he had like 6 cards left in his deck when I won, and I had like 9. It was a pretty long fucking game. And playing 26 lands, playing 2 of these tap lands, playing 2 of these Shambling Events, so we have 4 tap lands. The Isolated Chapel will come in if you have a Plains or a swamp, and these tap lands don't count, so we don't have the new Battle for Zendikar lands. So we actually had to have a basic in play in order to get Isolated Chapel to come in untapped. So that's a little bit of a pain, but the mana's not too bad. We have 26. There's no problem to get to 3, cast your Read the Bones, and fix it up from there, and then weave in your tap lands as the game goes on. And that's it. That is my creatureless control deck with 1 creature. Has a pretty good looking curve. That usually doesn't matter for control decks, but it does. Has a lot of spells at a wide variety of costs, mostly at 2 and 3. Like I said, I played about 10 games with it. It's been pretty fun so far, and I'm looking forward to taking it out into the lobbies and some videos. See how it does. Thanks guys for watching, and we'll see you for some gameplay later on.